What is going on, guys? Pat in the shop, and tonight we have the Dingle Ball 355. This is a perfect example of budget horsepower for your small block Chevy. Tonight we're going to talk about what went into this combination, how much power did it make on the dyno, and what's the future plans for our little Dingle Ball here. So let's take a look. So if you're unfamiliar with the Dingle Ball 355, basically what it is a little 355 bottom end that I took in on trade-in, and the guy had some issues with his engine and burning oil and stuff, so he just gave up on this engine. It had very low miles on it, but he gave up on it, and I actually built him a 383. So the engine was too nice just to like get rid of and scrap, because the crank was like freshly polished, the rods were reconditioned, ARP bolts, and we'll go over all that in a second. But it had pop-up pistons, so I wanted to make a little bit of a higher compression Vortec engine. I had a spare set of Vortec Heads. These actually have 202.16 valves in that I've done some testing on, so I thought I'd use those. They needed some work and valve guides and stuff like that, but I thought I would make a fun combination to kind of build off some other ones that I've done, as far as like this could be like a stage 2, and then we're going to bump it up to a stage 3. But I wanted to see how much horsepower we can make on a budget, because really what I did was, and why it's called the Dingle Ball 355, is I took the engine all apart, obviously got rid of the heads that were on it, because this thing was just a dog before. Like it couldn't even spin the tires. The guy was not happy with it. So I ditched the heads in the cam and basically just used the bottom end, but I took it all apart and used a Dingle Ball hone and put a fresh set of rings, because it wasn't broken in properly, and the rings, it was just burning oil. It was just, they didn't seal up. And so I just wanted to do a budget. I don't do a lot of like Dingle Ball honing, so I wanted to try it. And actually, now that it's all ran and broken in, I did a leak down test on it, and the rings actually sealed up pretty good according to the leak down test. So so that actually worked out really well. But I wanted to do a budget flat tappet Vortec build. A lot of the stuff I do is roller cams, so I wanted to try a budget build where you guys can take this and, you know, redo a bottom end, put some Vortec heads on it. I'll give you all the flow numbers for those, and basically kind of get an idea of what you'll make if you're building a similar combination. So let me start with the bottom end, and we'll work our way up. We used on this are an LT1 style, like a 1970 LT1 style pop-up piston, with everything factored in the combustion chambers on our slightly modified Vortec Heads. We came with just right around 11:1 compression. You have to be careful with Vortec Heads and running these pop-up pistons, and I'll show you in a picture here. It gets really close to the embossment around the spark plug on the Vortec chambers. So when the piston comes up, it can hit that area. You can see it was really close. So what I did is milled off that, like did an angle mill on that embossment of 40,000ths of an inch before I did any chamber work, because I did do some slight chamber work and rounded off the chambers. But I wanted to make sure that all the head was even across the board on all chambers by just taking 40 thou off that. So the cylinder heads, they're a set of 350 Vortec cylinder heads, 062 part number. These were actually the cylinder heads that came on my truck when I got them. They've been upgraded to a 202 intake valve, 1.6 exhaust valve. I ported them. Let me throw up the flow numbers for that. I've pretty much ported them as far as I feel comfortable going with them, especially on the intake side. These are thin castings, and you can only hog out so much material on these factory castings before you kind of get into the danger zone. So that's where I am with them. You can see they flow really well, and you can also see in the flow numbers here why I pushed the 1.6 exhaust valves on Vortec Heads when guys asked me about them. There's the 1.6 with the porting. Just going to the 1.6 valve adds flow, but doing the porting really helps. As you can see, it totally eliminates that, what some people say with the Vortex having poor exhaust flow. You can see we're flowing pretty well, even compared to an aftermarket cylinder head. So that's what we have for the flow numbers. It's got the incognito screw-in rocker studs done on these. So basically all the tricks. If you were trying to replicate this, you probably wouldn't have to go to that 202 intake valve. You can stick with that 1.94 and porting, but I do recommend going to that 1.6 exhaust valve. I know some of you guys are eagerly waiting to find out what camshaft I put in this, but if you could do me a huge favor before I tell you, and just down below, click that subscribe button and click that like button. It means a lot to me. I'm having a lot of fun doing this for you guys, and it's one of it helps push me to doing more and more stuff like this. This is not a customer's engine. This is literally just for fun, because I know you guys want some answers to some of these budget builds. So if you could do that, that would be great, and I appreciate it. The moment you've been waiting for, the camshaft. Well, maybe the moment you've been waiting for is how much horsepower it made. But first we're going to talk about the camshaft, which is a Comp Cams, part number 12-33-4. It's a 286 AH-8 camshaft. It's got advertised duration of 286 on the intake and 292 on the exhaust, and that's 236 at 50 and 244 at 50 on the exhaust. It doesn't have a whole lot of lift. It's 490 on the intake with a 1.5 rocker arm and 485 on the exhaust with the 1.5 rocker arm. We ran this with, I was going to run 1.6, but I ran a 1.5 PRW roller tip rocker arm on this combination. So that 490 and 485 lift, and it was just slightly higher than that when I actually checked it. So let's say it's about a 500 lift on the intake. It's on a 108 lobe separation angle, so it's a fairly tight lobe separation angle, and I think this camshaft is actually advertised as a circle track cam. And if you were wondering about vacuum, it does not quite make enough vacuum with a 355 to run power brakes. It was about 8 to 10 inches at idle. So it's a fairly lumpy idle cam. So if you're looking for a hot rod sound, that 108 lobe separation angle will give you that. But not quite enough to run power brakes really safely unless you're running a vacuum pump. Right, but so dyno day for the Dingle Ball 355. She was all together. We ran it with the 750 double pumper on there. I had a 1/2 inch spacer. I was gonna try a little bit bigger spacer, but I didn't end up getting one in time. But it ended up working out because we didn't get a lot of testing time with this on the dyno, and I'll explain that in a second. But so it was ran with the 750 on there. It was ran on 91 pump gas. It had 1 3/4 inch dyno headers on it, just HEI distributor. Didn't even get a chance to play with timing too much, but we got it, I think, to the point where it was making decent, like the timing curve we didn't get to play with, but total timing I think we had in pretty good. But so what ended up happening was, first off, when I told them that it only had stock rods in it, they're not really interested in scattering parts under their dyno floor, which I totally understand. So at first he said he would only want to rev it to about 5,500, and I knew the cam was going to be making power up until at least probably 6,500 I was hoping to rev it to, even though that's quite a bit for a flat tappet hydraulic cam. But that's what I was hoping for, but he was, at first not interested. But we just started doing a couple pulls, and he could see that the power was just climbing, so I kept, and the thing was actually making good power. So I kept pushing him to go a little bit more and a little bit more, and on the last pull we did, I finally convinced him to go to 6,000, even though I was hoping for 65. And the funny part was an actual shaft at the back of the dyno let go, actually a joint at the back of the dyno, like a U-joint. for a second I thought that a rod came through the side of the block. So I was thinking like, oh man, I'm going to be cleaning up this guy's dyno floor for a bit, but it actually ended up being just that shaft to the back of the dyno. And it's not because that dyno can't take this crazy power of this 355. It actually had a race engine on it before, and I guess the shaft, it just takes a lot of abuse of the engines, and it just let go, happened to let go while this engine was on there. But it honestly, like, it was kind of funny. Now I have bragging rights that my little 355 broke the dyno, but it actually didn't. It was just a fluke thing. But it kind of cut the dyno time short, so we didn't get a whole lot of testing, a whole lot of messing around with this thing. But at least I got some good horsepower numbers and torque numbers for you guys to see. We got enough poles to kind of get an idea what it makes and get the timing pretty close. But I think there's still some power left in it. But let's take a look at the horsepower and the torque and see what you guys think. So as you can see, our little 355 did pretty decent on the dyno. It was still pulling up at 6,000 RPM, and it, which is not bad for a little flat Tappet cam, only 500 lift. So I was pretty happy with that. But what really surprised me is how much torque this thing made. It made almost like stroker torque, considering it had only a 3.48 stroke. The torque was actually really good. So I was pretty happy when seeing that. I wish we had a little bit more time, because my goal was actually to make 435 horsepower out of this combination, and it fell short of at 427. So, but considering this is a budget build, it was just a lot of recycled parts here. I really can't complain, because what we lacked a little bit in horsepower, which my goal was, we made up with it in making way more torque. So I can't complain, and this would be a sweet little combination in the hot rod. So that's it for the Dingle Ball 355. Well, that's not it actually. What I'm thinking and what we're gonna do is, if I get 500 likes on this video, I'd like to bring the 355 back to the dyno, except this time with a roller cam. I'm going to do a retrofit roller cam in here and add a windage tray. So I think we're going to add some more lift to this thing, because these heads really do need more lift than 500. At least 550, maybe a little bit more, which would be sweet. And then a little bit different camshaft. So I think if we do that, we're gonna hit my goal of 435, or at least we're gonna try. So if that's something you wanna see, hit that like button, and maybe recommend what camshaft you think would go in here, because I always like to see what guys recommend and what guys are thinking. I always find it interesting. Maybe we could do that, a different camshaft, some 1/6 rocker arms. Maybe we'll go to a full roller rocker arm or something like that. I'll see what I have lying around, and we can get this thing play with this thing some more. That would be fun. I'm really enjoying this. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I try to get answering those questions. I try to get to everything within a week. I usually have one night a week that I go through that stuff. So if you have any questions or comments, just comment below, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if I missed anything in this video, I will try and answer those questions for you guys. So hope you enjoyed our little 355 Dingle Ball engine here. It was a lot of fun playing with it, even though our dyno time was cut a little bit short. But again, let's get this thing back to the dyno and get it running once again. So thanks guys.